When you give your all for the company you work for, you expect to receive good rewards and recognition in return. However, all this guy got was getting sick. Fortunately, in Isekai worlds, people always get a second chance. So in this story, we'll follow him in a new world with dungeons and magical creatures. There's just one problem. He's at the lowest level. But with an insanely overpowered skill, that problem will be solved in an instant. The anime begins with the sound of a thud and an item being dropped. A guy who has just woken up hears a girl commenting that he's a human who just dropped. The girl strangely thinks he must be a meat drop and decides to cut him, but the guy is startled and lets out a scream that also startles the girl. Only now does she realize that he's indeed a human. How smart of her. She wonders why a slime dropped a human instead of a bean sprout. The guy is completely clueless about what the girl is talking about, so she decides to give him a demonstration. A blue slime starts jumping around and the girl chases after it with a giant hammer. However, the creature hits her first, taking more than half her HP, health points for those not familiar. Nevertheless, she manages to land the next blow and the creature disappears, leaving behind a drop with some bean sprouts. The guy asks why this happens, but the girl says that everyone knows that level 1 slimes in Telulu drop bean sprouts. However, he has never heard of this before. Only now does he realize that he has no idea where he is or what's happening. As they collect the sprouts, the girl explains that everything in this world, including bean sprouts, is dropped by monsters living in dungeons. They continue walking, and the guy asks if they are still in Japan. She obviously has no idea what Japan or Earth is, which only adds to the guy's confusion. After the girl eliminates another blue slime, he asks if she's only going to defeat these slimes. She explains that there are only slimes on the first floor of the dungeon, and she can't go to other levels because she's still weak. Despite that, he doesn't think she looks weak, but the girl says she needs to level up to descend to other dungeon floors. Then she takes him to see a status board, a large screen with a sensor where she places her hand to show her status. She's at level 3 out of 40 with HP at rank B and strength at rank C. Everything else is rank E or F. Realizing that this is like a video game, the guy understands that she seems to be a character based on brute strength. On the second page, she shows the drop rankings, which determine how much a person can get from items dropped by defeated creatures. In her case, the highest rank is for plants, which is why she collects bean sprouts, but she's only at rank E while everything else is rank F. Now it's the guy's turn to check his own ranking. He places his hand on the board and sees that all of his skills are rank F, and he's at level 1 out of 1, meaning he can't level up. On the second page, the girl says his drop rate is sad. He doesn't even open his eyes to see it, while the girl calculates some letters to understand how low it is. But when he opens his eyes, he realizes everything is at rank S. The truth is, the girl didn't understand that rank S is above rank A, as she has never seen anything in that rank before. So the guy decides to test it out, but he needs a weapon. The girl lends him a big hammer, but it's too heavy for him. She then lends him a bamboo spear, and at that moment, an electronic voice says he acquired the spear. When a slime appears, the guy has a hard time hitting it, but when he finally eliminates the creature, the number of bean sprouts that drops is absurd compared to what the girl could collect before. Suddenly, the guy's stomach starts growling, so the girl invites him to eat. She has prepared a meal with bean sprouts and a chili sauce that the guy says goes really well with it, but it's missing a beer to complete the meal. The girl then mentions that she doesn't drink because buying alcohol is too expensive for her. She also gives him some soup, and when he tastes it, he is stunned. She thinks there's something wrong, but he says it's been a long time since he had a warm meal with someone. Before, he would leave home early and work overtime late without pay. His meals were whatever cold food he could buy at a convenience store. He ruined his health doing that and ended up in the hospital. But after that, he thought he had to make up for lost time. So he worked even more overtime, missed the last train, took a nap, and then got dropped by a slime in this place. To comfort him, the girl gives him a hug and says that efforts are always rewarded. It may take time, but those who work hard will eventually be rewarded, and the more effort they put in, the greater the reward. She thinks he must have worked too hard, so all that's left is for him to be rewarded now. The guy says he needs to find a place to sleep, so the girl tells him he can look for an inn in the city located at the dungeon's exit. She also mentions that she will sleep in the dungeon itself because her drop rate is very low, so she doesn't earn much from it, but she dreams of one day renting an apartment. Before the guy leaves, she leaves the spear with him so he won't be defenseless, and he says he will return it. They finally introduce themselves. The girl's name is Emily Brown, and his name is Ryota Sato. She doesn't understand the pronunciation despite it being a simple Japanese name. In the city, he begins to understand how things work there, and the local currency is called pilo. The bean sprouts yielded 200 pylos. Renting a room to sleep costs 2,000 pylos per night, and a plate of food costs about 500 pylos. With that in mind, Ryota hunts various slimes to collect a significant amount of drops. 3 days later, he takes Emily to a rented house. She is impressed that he managed to do this in just 3 days, considering that the rent for this place is 20,000 pylos per month. He then hands over the keys, saying that Emily will live there and he will cover the rent as a thank you for the soup. However, he looks quite exhausted, with deep bags under his eyes and calluses on his hands, so Emily decides to start making soup for both of them to eat. After all, he has done a lot of physical labor. Sometime later, Ryota brings a bag of bean sprouts to sell, and the girl at the store named Erza has pink hair and pink eyes. She also can't quite get Ryota's name right. The sprouts total 1,967 pylos, but since the guy always brings them in large quantities, the girl rounds it up to 2,000. He comments that it's still not much, and he's thinking of exploring the second floor of Telulu to see what he can improve there. Erza mentions that monsters on the second floor drop carrots. She also notes that a new dungeon recently appeared called Nihonium, and an organization called Neptune is already investigating what drops there. Before the guy leaves, the girl informs him that there's a new establishment on the corner that serves a very good drink. She invites him to have some. She doesn't waste any time, But Ryota declines and heads home, while another vendor teases Erza for getting rejected. Back at home, Ryota finds the place surprisingly clean, and Emily tells him she did some cleaning. It's so clean because it's the first time she's done any cleaning, and she got carried away with it. She even prepared a warm towel for him to put on his face and relax a bit before having some tea. Ryota says she must be tired from doing all this, but since Emily has never done housework before, she finds it fun. The guy mentions the new dungeon, and Emily tells him she heard that nothing drops there. This information piques his curiosity because in this world, everything drops in dungeons, so there must be something there. Ryota decides to explore the place, which initially seems empty, but suddenly a skeleton appears and attacks him. He narrowly avoids being hit, but the creature's attack causes an entire stone column to collapse. Ryota tries to counter with the bamboo spear, but being a skeleton, the weapon goes right through its ribs and hits the column behind it. When he's about to be hit, the guy is saved by the falling column, and he takes the opportunity to finish off the opponent. At that moment, a seed drops from the skeleton, but it disappears when he tries to pick it up, and the digital voice says his maximum HP has increased by 1 point. When he and Emily check their status, even though he's still at level 1, Ryota's HP has changed to rank C, so the effect of the seed was real. After that, the guy faces several other skeletons and even takes Emily to help and run some tests. They discover that when Emily finishes off a skeleton, nothing drops. However, when Ryota finishes them off, Emily can't pick up the seed, which passes through her hand. He's also the only one who hears that voice. This is strange because an item that drops and can only be picked up by one person could disrupt things in this world. However, that's what happens, and the guy gets stronger without leveling up. This means that Nihonium is a dungeon specifically designed to raise your stats. A few days later, now with HP at rank S after working hard in Nihonium, he decides to start exploring the second floor of Telulu to see what he can improve there. Emily asks him not to overdo it because he tends to push himself too hard, like when he rented this rundown house that he had to clean up, and now he's always coming back late, so she asks him to at least come back in the early evening. With that, he remembers that no one cared about him in the other world, but now he has her, so he decides to follow her advice. The second floor of Telulu has orange walls, and the green slime that appears wears a red hat. Despite being hit, Ryota loses hardly any HP and feels no pain. The creature continues to attack until it's hit by the bamboo spear and drops a large carrot. Then another green slime appears and it's hit by a fire blast, followed by a trio of explorers. One of them uses a device to check Ryota's status, and everyone laughs at his level 1 status. Before they leave, one of them advises him to go back to the first floor so he doesn't die. Suddenly, another person appears, a girl with rabbit ears, who, when Ryota asks if they are real, instead of answering, asks if he's level 1. When he confirms, she says she hates low-level people and smacks him on the forehead. After this strange situation, the girl walks away. Back home, Emily is impressed with the size of the carrots, literally and figuratively. Ryota then explains that the carrots he sold earned them 8,000 pylos, but he kept some for them to eat. Suddenly, someone knocks on the door and Ryota answers it. It's the crazy bunny girl again, who once more smacks him on the forehead, saying she hates low-level people. Then, out of nowhere, she seems to change her personality and says she loves him. Ryota wondered if in this world bunny girls were normal, until the bunny girl tapped him on the head again. Sensing something strange, she grabbed another adventurer and performed the same move, which was like a karate strike, instantly knocking the man down, startling both Emily and Ryota. Afterward, the bunny girl explained that she did the same to Ryota, but he was still alive despite his low level. As other men helped the poor guy who was attacked to get up, Ryota thought that this might be because his HP was at rank S. Instead of trying to explain, he asked the bunny girl what she was doing there. She then pulled a carrot out of her clothes and said she found it in the dungeon. Ryota remembered that when he was carrying the dropped carrots earlier, one of them fell to the ground, but neither he nor Emily saw where it went. In reality, the bunny girl had picked it up. She mentioned wanting some amazing carrots like that and noticed the huge pile of carrots they had at home. The bunny girl was delighted and Emily invited her to eat with them. The blonde girl took the carrots and peeled them before slicing them into thin strips to cook. She also prepared a sauce with meat and the carrot leaves, finishing the dish, which she called carrot soba, served with a bean sprout and carrot soup. As they began to eat, Ryota asked again if the bunny girl's ears were natural. Instead of answering, she simply praised the food and said Emily was a goddess. Ryota agreed that her cooking was divine, though Emily thought that was an exaggeration. After their meal, the bunny girl thanked them for the food and bid farewell before leaving. Ryota and Emily found the situation amusing, but then the girl thanked them again, saying that before he appeared, she always ate alone. Eating with him and the other guests he had brought made her very happy. Hearing this, Ryota remembered that in the other world, he always ate alone. Still very cheerful, Emily suggested they always eat together from now on. The next day, Ryota went to the second floor of the Nihonium dungeon, reflecting on how he had found a comfortable life in this world and needed to get stronger to protect it. That's when a zombie attacked him. Ryota used a bamboo spear and managed to hit the undead, but the weapon broke. The zombie punched him, but he felt no pain due to his rank as HP, though he found it disgusting. He retaliated and ended up with dirty hands, but since he had no other weapon, he finished the fight with his hands and feet, as the last blow was a kick. With the monster defeated, another seed dropped. Ryota picked up the item, and this time, unlike the first floor where the dropped seeds increased his HP, the seed on this floor increased his strength by 1 point. Suddenly, Ryota noticed the bunny girl in a corner of the dungeon. It seems she had seen everything. She approached and asked what that drop was. The situation became a dilemma for Ryota because everyone thought this dungeon didn't drop anything, but only he, with his rank as drop rates, could obtain these drops that no one else could. He preferred not to tell the bunny girl the truth, but she seemed more interested in the carrots. She made a strange offer, death or carrots. Since there were no carrots in Nihonium, he promised to go to Telulu to collect some carrots later and told her to wait for him at the Gratitude of the Swallow, the shop where people sold items collected in the dungeons. He thought that as long as he had carrots, everything would be fine. With his strength increased from rank F to rank D, Ryota was able to defeat the slimes much more easily and collect more drops. At the market, he saw that the bunny girl was already waiting. People found it strange when he approached her. It seemed like everyone was afraid. However, all he did was give her a carrot. When the bunny girl said she loved those carrots, the other adventurers were impressed. She ate like a horse, so Ryota commented that something was wrong with her. No surprise there. Suddenly, Ezra asked if Ryota knew this girl, but he said he wouldn't exactly call it knowing her. He had just given her some carrots, and apparently she had become attached. This information left everyone even more impressed. Ezra then mentioned that she would buy those carrots for double the normal price and explained that the girl was Eve Callisleer. She had natural rabbit ears and was an adventurer known for her assassin technique called Excalibur, an attack with her hand said to be able to split a stone in half. Eve was also famous for her love of carrots, and in the dungeons closest to this city with floors where carrots dropped, there were floors where only she could access. Her catchphrase was death or carrots, and some had really gone downhill after giving her bad carrots. Finally, Ezra said that any carrot approved by Eve could certainly be sold for a higher price, and she bought each one for 15,000 pylos. With 30 carrots, Ryota did the math and realized it amounted to 450,000 pylos. He thanked the bunny girl, but of course she told him to thank her with carrots. Ryota said he had stopped exploring for the day and could bring more the next day, but she didn't want to wait. When she went to make that attack again, Ryota grabbed her hand, startling everyone in the area once more. He explained that he had promised Emily not to work late, so he promised to bring more carrots for Eve the next day. She agreed and left after that. The next day in Telulu, Ryota found a girl trying to defeat a slime with an axe, but her attacks had no effect. The monster didn't even bother to retaliate as a guy appeared to help the exhausted girl, and an old man started scolding them, saying they were being lazy. They apologized and held the slime for the old man to defeat with a single sword strike. Ryota noticed he was strong, but the carrot drop wasn't anything special. The young ones asked for a short break, but the old man called them weak and said that when he was young, he spent weeks in that dungeon and became strong that way. He said it was for their own good, as they would surely become strong. He was strict because he believed in them, so they needed to believe in him too. The young adventurers yielded and continued following this demanding master. Ryota found this scene unpleasant and remembered that he had a boss like that. one who gave employees impossible tasks, saying it was for their own good. Emily invited him to lunch and took out some packed lunches that looked really good. At that moment, Eve arrived and the blonde girl gave her a carrot pudding. Once again, everything she prepared was delicious and both the bunny girl and Ryota praised the food. Suddenly, the old man appeared down the hallway and scolded the disciples, saying they were being lazy in this sacred dungeon. He claimed that even the dropped items had a spirit and the adventurer's effort affected the quality. He even said the drops from these slackers must be terrible. To shut him up, the bunny girl took a carrot from Ryota, split it in half, and put it in the mouths of the two young adventurers. With the carrot in their mouths, they praised the taste and continued eating. Then Eve told the old man that he didn't understand carrots and that they tasted good even without suffering. When he made an attempt to attack, the bunny girl stopped him with one hand and said that Ryota's carrots were the best. Having no other choice, he decided to move on, taking the disciples with him. Eve then resumed eating the carrots. Ryota thanked her for what she had said, and she mentioned wanting more carrots in the coming days. When they arrived at the gratitude of the swallow, Ezra thanked them for the quantity of carrots. Ryota explained that he had actually dropped more than that but couldn't bring it all. Upon hearing this, Ezra asked if they didn't have a magical cart. Ryota didn't even know what that was, so Emily pointed to other adventurers who had carts with support for pushing. Ezra explained that you could carry much more with those carts, increasing work efficiency. So the duo went to a magical cart shop recommended by Ezra. Inside, they met a girl named Olga, who quickly called her father to attend to the customers. Her father was a bit old, but very friendly. Ryota said he wanted to buy a cart, so the shop owner offered one with a monster detection system. The duo found it useful, but the price was an issue. The cart cost 10 million pylos. With the duo shocked by the price, the old man mentioned a basic model that cost 2 or 3 million, but it was still expensive for them at the moment. Nevertheless, the shop owner got excited about the next cart he was tuning and said they would like it when it was ready. So they left without a cart, and Ryota commented that they could save up to buy one later. Suddenly, they heard someone shouting to run because of a stray, while some tremors began in the distance. Ryota asked what a stray was, and the girl explained that when items were left in a dungeon where no one was present, these creatures appeared. In the distance, they finally saw the monster, a gigantic gorilla larger than the city's buildings. Adventurers began to flee, and Emily explained that strays didn't drop any items, so it wasn't worth it for adventurers to fight these creatures. Even the shop owner and Olga were fleeing. The old man told the duo to run too, but they saw Ezra cornered, almost about to be attacked by the beast. Ryota didn't hesitate and grabbed the gorilla's hand, protecting the girl. Suddenly, Eve appeared with other adventurers to help in the battle. The city was already partially destroyed, but Ryota promised the girl he would defeat the stray. Emily also wanted to help, but when Ryota stepped forward to fight, the other adventurers didn't think he would accomplish anything. Not even Eve had faith in him. However, he asked them to trust him. The gorilla picked up a huge rock to attack, but Emily retaliated with a blow that destroyed the rock. While Eve and the others also did their part, Ryota jumped high and collided head-on with the gorilla, headbutting it in the forehead. Then he landed a punch strong enough to defeat the monster. Eve said Ryota was showing off too much for his low level, but everyone in the city thanked him for saving the entire city. Ryota remembered that no one had ever been happy about something he had done before, but his thoughts were interrupted by the sound of a drop. Even though Emily had said that strays didn't drop anything, he knew they had said the same about the monsters in Nihonium. But he obtained drops due to his rank S abilities, and perhaps the same applied to strays. Ryota and Emily approached the spot where the monster had disappeared and found something very shiny. The drop that appears in place of the lost item is a revolver, along with a holster and some ammunition. Ryota picks up the weapon but knows that it shouldn't exist in this world. After that, he goes to the dungeon to test it. On the status panel near Nihonium, we see that Ryota is ranked S in HP and ranked C in Strength, all thanks to the seeds he obtains in this dungeon. Inside, he starts testing this firearm when a zombie appears. It only takes him 2 shots to defeat the creature. Other undead creatures appear, and he easily defeats them as well. What Ryota doesn't know is how to replenish the ammunition once it runs out, theorizing that they only drop from lost items. So he decides to conserve them until he figures it out. Later, it's shown that Emily is trying to defeat a green slime in Telulu. She misses her attack, and the slime jumps over her, but Ryota solves the problem with a bullet. With this device, it's much easier, and even Emily admits she's never seen anything like it. Ryota explains that with this weapon, he was able to increase his strength to rank B in another dungeon, and is now considering trying the next floor of Telulu. For him, the feeling of being able to explore more places and have more possibilities is fantastic. It's only when they stop to eat that they realize Eve hasn't shown up to eat the carrots. Ryota compliments Emily's cooking again, and this time there's even a little tea that makes him feel relaxed. While descending the stairs to the 3rd floor, Ryota asks if Emily has been on this floor before. She says no, and she only knows the names of the monsters on this floor and what they drop. The monsters are called Slimerats, and they drop pumpkins. Ryota finds it repetitive to have slimes again, but he's excited about eating pumpkin. After walking a bit, they see the creatures walking on the walls. Ryota notices that they look a lot like cockroaches and imagines that the girls must scream and run away from these creatures because of their appearance. However, a thudding sound catches his attention and he sees Emily attacking the Slimerats with all her brutality. Ryota tries to question her, but she looks crazy and says that if they don't do it this way, the tragedy will only spread. He tries to convince her to take it easy, but she is possessed by disturbing anger. After defeating the first Slimerat, Emily returns to normal as if nothing had happened and collects the pumpkin drop. To prevent this madness from happening again, he suggests going back to collecting carrots on the other floor, and Emily agrees. On the way, Ryota wants to leave quickly because he doesn't want to see Emily scary again. However, it's in this same corridor that many Slimerats appear at once. Emily loses it again and becomes even more terrifying. She's so crazy that she says she might not be able to turn back into a human. Ryota starts shooting at the insects. I just don't know how his aim got so good. Knowing that he can't miss any shots, he thinks that maybe he's never concentrated so much on anything in his life. After this battle, they've accumulated many large pumpkins, so many that the exit of the floor is blocked. Ryota says they can't take everything, but when Emily says that if they stay there, the creatures will reappear, and she wants to eliminate them all, Ryota tries to keep her calm. It's at this moment that Eve appears, clearing a path through the pumpkins. Of course, she showed up to get some carrots. After that, they go to Gradado da Andorinha to sell the items, but since they were carrying them little by little, the duo needs to go back to pick up the rest outside. The problem is that there are now holes in the pumpkins. While Ryota comments that they won't be able to sell them, Emily already has her sledgehammer up. When he realizes it, she warns that the insects are there and starts swinging the sledgehammer with all the anger in the world until she hits a pumpkin, causing the Slimerats inside to scatter. With this, Ryota is amazed because they are outside of the dungeon. The girl is very crazy, so Ryota needs to act and start shooting at these new insects to try to solve the problem. Unfortunately, the ammunition runs out, but since Emily is crazier than Batman, he ends up using his shoes to deal with the creatures, who hasn't had to use his sandal for this. After a lot of work, he finally manages to exterminate all the Slimerats. Emily apologizes for turning into a different person when she sees these strange creatures, but Ryota knows it's not her fault. Suddenly, they hear the sound of items dropping, and Ryota sees the ammunition where he just defeated the cockroaches. Back at the market, Ezra is impressed that he didn't know this, but she explains that if dropped items are left where there's no one, monsters start appearing around them. In fact, now he remembers that Emily said something similar on the day of the gorilla, but it seems he didn't process the information properly. After that, he apologizes for making Ezra wait for the pumpkins that no longer exist, but the girl says it's not a problem because they're still in business hours. While she's still talking about something, Ryota starts wondering if he can force the appearance of lost items. Ezra was trying to invite him out again, but Ryota didn't even hear what she said and is already leaving to test the idea he had. He leaves a carrot on the ground in a place where no one is around and waits, but Eve appears to eat the carrot. It's hard to convince the rabbit that he needs the carrots, so Ryota ends up having to give away almost all the carrots he had saved and leaves only the last one on the ground to run the test. In no time, the carrot turns into a green slime, but Ryota shoots it immediately and sees that the creature turns into more ammunition. While collecting the items, he wonders what could happen to the monsters in Nihonium if he tries the same thing. We then see Ryota the next day on the first floor of Nihonium collecting one of the seeds from the skeletons, but the drop disappears and no longer increases his HP. He thought that by having his HP already at maximum, he could pick up the seeds from the first level and take them outside without them disappearing, but he was wrong. When Ryota decides to leave, he is attacked by a skeleton near the exit and ends up dancing with the monster until he manages to kick it out of the dungeon. He thinks the creature will turn into a lost item, but the skeleton ends up disappearing into thin air. When he talks to Ezra again, she explains that monsters do disappear when leaving dungeons. Otherwise, there would be many monsters wandering around. Even within dungeons, creatures disappear if they go to a different floor, which is why each floor has only one type of monster. The girl comments that Ryota is a talented adventurer, but is surprised he doesn't know much about these things. She says she finds this contrast attractive, but once again he's not listening and is already leaving the market. This time, Ryota stays near the dungeon exit to try a new plan. When the first skeleton appears, he throws the creature outside and fires several shots before it disappears, and like a lost item, this time the skeleton drops something. The system's voice announces that Ryota has obtained a freezing bullet. The item is blue, and to test it, Ryota shoots a tree. This activates a special effect that freezes the tree completely. After that, he tested in Telulu, freezing a green slime for Emily to finish off, and it works. Ryota knows that this is a combo commonly used in games, and apparently, it works well in this world. Emily asks about what happened, so Ryota explains that these bullets freeze the target, but it takes a long time to obtain each one, so they will only use them when it's really necessary. For now, Ryota intends to use only regular bullets and let Emily take care of the monsters he misses. While they are inside the dungeon, it starts raining outside. When the duo comes out, the rain has stopped, but the ground is still a little wet, and it could be dangerous to slip, so they walk carefully until they encounter two people arguing. As the path is narrow, Ryota asks for space to pass, but the old man asks him to retrieve a load that fell down the cliff, a cart with drops. Ryota says it would be good to have a rope, but even so, it wouldn't be easy. The woman who was arguing with the old man says it's better not to try because it has been a long time since it fell, which means that lost items will appear soon. She starts preparing a fire spell to get rid of the items, but the old man interrupts her, almost pushing her off the cliff. He says that the cargo is very valuable, and he had to hire many adventurers to collect it all, but the woman says that he himself caused it to fall when he slipped due to the rain. Suddenly, the man says she's fired and tries to attack the woman, but she dodges in time. The strange thing is that the man is paralyzed by the effect of a floating mask, so the woman explains that it's a monster of the feminine type. They don't have bodies, so they use humans as hosts. Ryota uses the 38 to eliminate the creature and save the old man, but now he faints while some bullets drop near him. The woman suggests taking the old man and fleeing because there will soon be feminists everywhere, so she plans to go down and become a host to gain time while they find some extermination group. Emily says it's too risky, but since the woman was hired as an escort on this mission, she feels responsible for the accident and believes she needs to fix it. Upon hearing this, Ryota remembers his job in the other world when a colleague made a mistake and angered the client, so the supervisor made the guy redo the whole job. Ryota wanted to help the colleague, but he had the same talk that it was his mistake and he needed to fix it, especially because Ryota had his own work to do. In reality, he really wanted to help the colleague, but ended up only thinking about himself. So he prevents the woman from going down the cliff, intending to help. He's determined to do things differently now. With the freezing ammunition, Ryota fires some shots until the objects are covered in ice, and then Emily smashes everything with her sledgehammer. The woman thanks them for their help. After that, back in the city, they check Emily's stats, which had jumped straight to level 20, a significant advancement. The main ranks that increased were her strength, which went to rank A, HP to rank B, and vitality to rank C. This means that those feminists were really powerful monsters, and she defeated many of them at once. Emily acknowledges that it was all thanks to Ryota and says that if she continues to stay by his side, good things will keep happening. Ryota remains humble, saying that he also benefits from it. When the duo begins to explore the 4th floor of Telulu, they encounter several bat monsters and also a type of orange slime. Emily mentions that this is a rare monster, so Ryota quickly takes care of it. Seeing that it dropped a type of necklace, he tells Emily to start using it. At first, she doesn't understand, but thanks him for the gift. However, he explains that with this item, she can earn more money. He mentions that he just heard a voice and that this necklace doubles the drop rate. This leads Emily to scold him for not mentioning it earlier. To test it out, Emily attacks several bats, and they drop many bamboo sprouts. Now that she has the drop rate doubled, she's doing very well. Later, the girl prepares a meal. Ryota offers to help, but she says it's okay. Nevertheless, he imagines that this kitchen is small and difficult to use, so he mentions that he's thinking of making it change since they're earning enough to move to a better place. At first, Emily looks a bit down, and he asks her what kind of place she would like to live in. It's only then that Emily realizes he wants to move in together with her, not alone. Of course, this is just a plan for when they manage to save more money, so Emily asks him again not to overexert himself. The next day, they collect more bamboo sprouts to sell at the grocery store. Ezra doesn't know how to price what he collected. He thought it was just a matter of weighing them. Meanwhile, there's a strange woman with green hair eyeing Ryota's bamboo sprouts. She asks to try one, and he gives her one. The woman tosses it in the air and quickly peels and slices it, letting the pieces fall onto a plate. Ezra is impressed by the scene. Next, the woman tries a slice and finds it delicious, calling it the best bamboo sprout she's ever tasted. She compares the sprout to a rare delicacy. It doesn't take Ryota long to realize that she's a bit eccentric. The woman then begs him to sell these sprouts to her. Ryota is hesitant, but Ezra says it's okay. He can sell them all to her. She makes a payment, claiming that she can't even put a price on such a divine taste. The payment is 20,000 pylos, but Ryota thinks it's too high for bamboo sprouts. Now that the woman has left, Ezra explains that her name is Eric Macy, and she's a very important and famous gastronome. Ingredients recognized by her can fetch very high prices in the gourmet world. To be more direct, Ezra asks Ryota to sign an exclusivity contract, because once word gets out about his bamboo sprouts, they'll become Ryota's bamboo sprouts. Ezra knows they're valuable, so she'll offer bonuses specified in the contract. Ryota agrees to the deal because he trusts Ezra completely. After a while, Ryota returns to the Nihonium dungeon, intending to continue increasing his strength to reach rank as quickly. Suddenly, he encounters a girl facing a skeleton. With the help of some men, she defeats the creature and places its skull in a magical cart. One of the men asks Ryota not to interfere because this girl, named Princess Margaret, is working. She acknowledges the man, and the assistant explains that she's creating air boxes. Since everyone believes that the monsters in this dungeon don't drop anything, they think they drop air instead. So they decided to box and sell this air, similar to some snack companies. Moreover, it's not just any air, it's collected by the princess. Of course, the magical cart helps the group reduce the number of trips. With this in mind, Ryota discusses with Emily the idea of buying a magical cart or prioritizing the plan to save money for a new house. Emily thinks it's better to get the cart first, as it will allow them to save more money, making the move happen faster. Additionally, Emily actually likes living in their current small house, so they agree to buy the cart first. The next day, they go to the cart shop and find Olga, the vendor's daughter, crying alone. She explains that her father went out and hasn't returned yet. All she knows is that he went to pick some flowers. Thankfully, he didn't go to buy cigarettes. Emily knows that there's only one place in the area where flowers drop, the arsenic dungeon. Without wasting time, the duo heads to this dungeon. The monsters on the first floor, called Dandaroks, don't move or attack, but some of them are blocking their way. In response, Ryota takes a shot at one of them, but the bullet doesn't penetrate the monster's shell. Emily, on the other hand, delivers a powerful blow, turning everything in her path into flowers. They proceed to the 10th floor, where they find the cart vendor lying on the ground, deeply asleep. Angry that he left Olga worried and scared, Emily strikes the ground with her hammer, waking him up immediately. When she scolds him for leaving his daughter alone, the old man apologizes but explains that he came to this dungeon to retrieve parts for a new magical cart prototype. He needed heavy rock and light rock that can only be found in this dungeon. The problem is that he couldn't obtain the light rock, and the Dandaroks are blocking the way. He then shows a light rock floating near the ceiling. This stone floats because it's lighter than air, and this monster is rare, making it hard to obtain. To help the man, Ryota carries Emily on his shoulders. The issue is more about the weight of the hammer, but now he has rank as strength, so he can handle it for a while. Emily easily takes down the monster, turning it into a blue flower. However, the man didn't exactly want the flower. Outside, they place the flower on the ground and step away to let it transform into a lost. Although Ryota can't help but imagine the little girl still waiting anxiously for her father. Since there's no ceiling outside, they need to be quick to prevent the lost from floating away into the sky. After a waiting period, the flower turns into a light rock. The old man tries to grab the monster but fails. To help, Ryota uses an ice bullet to freeze the creature. The weight of the ice causes the stone to fall back to the ground, and the vendor retrieves the light rock to take it back to the shop. Back in the workshop, he finishes the magical cart prototype and gifts it to Ryota. At first, Ryota says he can't accept something so expensive, but the vendor explains that he's not giving the cart because of the help capturing the light rock, but because Ryota saved the city that day, and it's only fair that the hero is recognized for his efforts. Emily remarks that it's a good reward for hard work. After that, they continue to collect bamboo sprouts in Telulu and quickly reach the cart's maximum capacity. So Ryota decides to take everything to sell while Emily heads home to prepare dinner. At the market, Ryota encounters a bald man causing trouble with Ezra, complaining about the selling price. Even though the girl explains that she charged the normal price for the item, the man still thinks his drops are worth more and believes he deserves a bonus just for the headache. In any case, Ezra stands her ground, so the man resorts to violence. But before he can touch her, a shot freezes his arm. It's Ryota, and he tells the man to stop. Ryota knows that Ezra is fair when it comes to prices. He takes the bamboo sprouts out of the cart and places them in a corner, then takes the man's drops and puts them in the cart, explaining that this new model is made with rare monsters from arsenic and automatically detects the weight of the content to calculate the total selling price. The cart's counter shows exactly the price Ezra is charging, which is 8,400 pylos. This makes the bald man accuse Ryota of conspiring with the store and trying to scam customers. However, Ryota couldn't have planned this since he just arrived at the store. The man tells him to shut up and tries to punch him, but Ryota effortlessly stops the punch with one hand and puts the man to sleep with a light tap. Ezra thanks him for what he did. She explains that she's just a merchant, and all the items are obtained through the efforts of adventurers who risk their lives. Handling everything carefully is part of her job. She wants everyone to come and sell things in peace. Still, since she needs help, Ezra thinks it might be too much for her, but Ryota asks her what's wrong with needing help because no one can do everything alone. He reminds her that she has helped him many times before. She doesn't think she did anything special for him. But Ryota says that the way she always buys items with a smile and shares her energy with him makes him want to be able to help her when she needs it. One hand washes the other, and in the end, Ryota feels that Ezra helps him much more than he helps her. Hearing this, Ezra gets up and kisses him out of the blue. This startles him, but Ezra tells him to be aware that she didn't do it as a merchant. It was a kiss from her as herself, and should remember that on the way back. Ezra then returns to work, leaving Ryota in shock. The next day in Talulu, he and Emily continue to collect bamboo sprouts. Before, they could only profit 20,000 pylos every time they went to this floor, but now with the cart, they can gather enough to make 200,000 pylos in profit. With all this money, it's easy to save for a house move. That's exactly what they do. On moving day, they talk about the good memories they have of their old house. Emily mentions that it's where she felt the comfort of having a place to come back to at the end of the day. They both genuinely like this place. Seeing the value of 20,000 pylos, which is the rent price, Ryota reflects for a moment and suggests keeping this house rented so they can return whenever they want, even if they move to a new house. When Emily asks if it's not too expensive, he says that's why he goes into the dungeons every day to earn money. It's all to protect the important places for him. In the new house, we see Ryota waking up and Emily serves another delicious breakfast. Suddenly, Eve appears to have breakfast with them because there are carrots on the plate, and where there are carrots, there are rabbits. So the three of them eat together. After some time in this new house, we see Emily preparing a meal alone and having a great time, while Ryota continues to explore the Mahonium dungeon. This time, he encounters a mummy and realizes he's out of ammunition. The seed dropped by the mummy increases his speed. However, while he's distracted, Ryota is surprised by another mummy that appears to attack him. He manages to grab the creature's hands and engages in a strength contest until he pushes the creature away and delivers a kick that defeats the mummy instantly. Only now does he remember that he already has an S-rank strength, which is useful in this dungeon. Later, at the drop market, Ryota is just chilling when he's approached by a handsome guy with red hair and eyes. The man sits down with him, but before introducing himself, two girls get very close and ask if Ryota is really the guy they were looking for. Ryota is confused and quickly questions what the guy wants. So the handsome man challenges Ryota to an arm wrestling match, and when asked why, he says he's very interested in Ryota's strength because the guy has been drawing a lot of attention lately. With this, Ryota remembers the man he defeated in public with a single blow and realizes that this is one of the things that might be attracting attention. The handsome man continues to insist on the contest, so Ryota feels obligated to accept because the guy is good-looking, surrounded by girls, and very confident in his own strength. Thus, the two begin the contest, and Ryota realizes that the guy is indeed very strong. As they both continue to exert so much force, the table and chairs start shaking, and after a while, Ryota manages to win. This impresses the girls, but the handsome man only compliments the guy on his strength. At this point, Ryota realizes that this guy must be from Neptune, a famous organization Ezra mentioned. The guy challenges Ryota to another one-on-one match, but Ryota declines to avoid drawing too much attention. Suddenly, the guy clenches his fist and tries to punch Ryota, who can only react with another punch, but it's so powerful that it sends him flying. The man says he likes Ryota and invites him to join his family, not sure if it's a pickup line. That night at home, Ryota tells Emily what happened and that he turned down the offer because he has no intention of joining any such group, plus he's very happy living with Emily in this house. The girl is also happy to hear that. Suddenly, they hear Eve's voice calling Ryota lazy for someone with a low level. It seems she was at the table the whole time. Emily, on the other hand, thinks that the guy's offer occurred because Ryota has helped a lot of people, making him a hero in her eyes. On the next day in Mahonium, Ryota walks feeling proud because of Emily's compliment until he encounters the princess's group again. The man shows some new special items called Pandora boxes. In a demonstration, the princess defeats a monster and an assistant opens the box, showing that the air from this place goes directly into the box. The man explains that this box automatically absorbs the dropped item and shows the face of the person who dropped it on the lid. They are doing this because some people doubted that this air had been dropped by the princess. Knowing that Ryota is an adventurer, the man gives him some boxes and tells him to share them with his friends. Initially, Ryota doesn't think he needs so many boxes, but suddenly, he has an idea of the fact that they automatically absorb what was dropped. Sometime later, we see him outside with the boxes. He used this function to collect the dropped seeds and take them out of the dungeon to see what happens finally. Leaving the box aside, several skeletons suddenly appear, so Ryota shoots them until they're all gone, dropping several freezing bullets that were previously hard to come by. Now he has a new idea and goes back into the dungeon with the boxes. After he leaves, we see Emily approaching with a magic cart. She asks what he's doing, but instead of explaining, Ryota is about to demonstrate because the drops are getting lost again. This time, there's a mummy and a zombie, and after dealing with both, Ryota receives 2 new bullets. The zombie's bullet is red, and the system explains it's a flaming bullet. As for the mummy's bullet, it's white, and we can't hear what it is, but Ryota says it will be very useful, so he decides to take more. After some more effort, he gathers a good amount of special ammunition of all 3 types. Suddenly, he feels a chill, and the girl realizes what happened. So when he mentions the chill, Emily says she came to talk about that with a man of storm approaching. Later, he arrives at the store and Ezra notices Emily isn't with him. The guy explains that his friend went to buy something, so Ezra understands it's related to the Man of Storm. Although Emily told Ryota, she didn't seem to know how to explain it properly, so he asks Ezra for help. The seller explains that these storms are rare natural phenomena. When they occur, magic cannot be used until the storm passes. Depending on the intensity, the storm can affect both cities and dungeons. Furthermore, the approaching storm is going to be a big one, so for magic users, it will be a day off, and this affects the items people can buy, particularly those geared toward mages. Suddenly, a hooded guy named Reyes appears, asking for help because his partner got stuck in a dungeon. The problem is that it's in the Silicon Dungeon, which is more oriented toward mages. Apparently, this dude didn't hear about the storm because they are newcomers to the city. While the mage pleads for help, Ryota wonders why no one is doing anything to help. Suddenly, the handsome Neptune guy appears again to see if Ryota has changed his mind, but of course he hasn't. Now regarding the mage, he comments that the issue is that this happened in the Silicon Dungeon because the monsters there are complicated, and not even he would risk entering. Ezra explains that the monsters in Silicon Dungeon are hardly affected by non-magical attacks. The handsome guy says he feels deeply moved by the situation, but it's too risky to endanger his own life for a stranger. Ryota remembers Emily calling him a hero, so he volunteers to help raise his friend. Shortly after, Ryota reaches the first floor of Silicon, while remembering that Reyes said his friend must still be on the 3rd floor. The monsters on the 1st floor are giant caterpillars that seem weak to fire, so Ryota uses the flaming ammunition. To prevent the vegetable drop from becoming lost, he uses freezing bullets on the drop to keep it following him. Even without magic, Ryota has his special bullets that do the work for him. When Emily arrives at the market, the vendors tell her what happened, and Eve also overhears the conversation. On the 3rd floor of Silicon, Ryota faces a flying insect monster in the same way he dealt with the caterpillars. A little further on, he finds the fallen mage, a girl named Rosa, who seems quite weakened. When another monster appears, Ryota realizes that he's now out of special ammunition. Meanwhile, Emily and Eve are also running to help. Of course, the rabbit only cares about the guy's carrots, while the blonde girl says she's going to help because Ryota reminds her of her mother. We see a flashback of mother and daughter in a dungeon. The woman defeats a monster to save the lives of other adventurers who were careless and scolds them. After this act, she takes the drink dropped by the monster to celebrate with the others. Emily's mother was indeed a strong and kind person, but one day in the dungeon, an adventurer runs by and warns her to run because there's a lost dragon in the dungeon. Calmly, the woman tells Emily not to worry because she will handle it, and she tells the girl to just run and leave the dungeon with the others. The problem is that Emily returns to see her mother defeat the dragon, but the woman became so weak that she collapses shortly after. Still, when Emily cries out for her mother, she says there's no need to shout and shows that she's more concerned about the other adventurers by asking if everyone is okay. Emily informs her that everyone is okay and starts crying, but her mother says this isn't the time for that. The girl starts carrying the woman on her back because she wants her to be taken to the other adventurers so that no lost ones appear among the drops she collected. Knowing that Emily will continue to enter dungeons, the woman tells her not to be reckless, not just for herself but also for others. Being a person who cared about others until the end, Emily considers her mother a hero. In the present, she compares Ryota to her mother because of this type of attitude, remembering how kind he is and how he always strives to save people. That's why this time she wants to save her friend. Meanwhile, the guy is carrying the mage and fleeing from the flying insects. He even tries some shots with regular bullets, but of course, it wouldn't work. Suddenly, he sees the girls coming to help, running from a bunch of lost zombies. Both offer to take care of the mage while the guy deals with the lost ones to get more ammunition. And that's exactly what the group does. When Ryota manages to gather a good amount of red ammunition, he no longer has difficulty dealing with the monsters in the dungeon. In no time, they reach the outside where Reyes was waiting. The mage would like to help Rosa with healing magic but can't because of the Man of Storm. However, Ryota is okay with this because he already knows what to do. With a shot, the mage starts glowing green, so Ryota explains that the white bullets are healing ammunition. He just didn't have time to try this bullet in the dungeon. With Rosa recovering, Reyes thanks them for everything they did. Later, Ryota celebrates for having saved the girl, and Emily continues to see her mother's qualities in his personality. The guy also mentions being impressed by the idea she had in the dungeon, but the girl says she didn't do anything but imitate her friend with this strategy. Still, the guy thanks both of them for saving him. Emily then says she prefers carrots to gratitude, so Ryota suggests the group eat something before leaving because the girls must be tired. Emily suggests they go home soon, and he asks if she's sure because then she'll have to cook, but the girl confirms that she's sure she wants that. Inside, she comments that she's having a lot of fun and asks if her mother can see her. When Ryota shows up at the market to appraise the new dropped items, in this case level 5 watermelons from Telulu, before Ezra can evaluate them, the gastronome Eric Macy appears to taste them first. As expected, upon trying them, the woman becomes enchanted by the fruit's flavor, praising the texture, refreshment, and sweetness. She mentions feeling like she's on the beach with this flavor. Due to the exaggerated praise, other customers quickly sample the other slices as well. The good news is that this makes Ezra want to sign another exclusivity contract with Ryota, just as they did with bamboo sprouts. The guy is happy because this is another guaranteed source of income. Knowing that the watermelon is from the 5th level of Telulu, Ezra asks if Ryota has obtained the license to explore from the 6th floor onwards, as in all dungeons in the world, there's an increase in risk from the 5th floor onwards. Each city has its policies to regulate exploration, and in the case of Sekro, they require a license every 5 levels. If adventurers try to sell dropped items without the proper license, merchants cannot accept them. Ryota understands that this is to prevent people from risking themselves on dangerous floors for more expensive items. He accepts the girl's recommendation and plans to obtain the license, already thinking about future explorations. He arrives with Emily at the designated location and encounters a mustachioed inspector, who first asks about the guy's achievements. Following a tip from Ezra, Ryota says he has been consistently getting watermelons from the 5th floor of Telulu. Therefore, the man takes a melon and leads it to another room. He explains that this melon is a drop from the 6th floor of Telulu. If Ryota can defeat the creature that emerges from this melon, he will receive the license. The monster that emerges from the melon is a steel slime, so Emily warns that this creature is so tough that blades won't work. Ryota starts with a punch, but it only pushes the monster back without causing much damage. He realizes that this slime is exceptionally resistant to have withstood a punch from someone with rank as strength. Next, he decides on a strategy, placing a flaming and a freezing bullet in his pistol. When the creature attempts to attack again, Ryota fires a shot of fire followed by one of ice. Now that the monster is frozen, Ryota gives it a gentle tap, causing the slime to shatter. He used physics in this battle because by heating the metal intensely and then cooling it immediately, the steel becomes much more brittle. The mustachioed inspector is impressed by this feat and hands Ryota the license. He mentions working at this place for over 10 years, and Ryota is the most impressive person he's encountered, raising good expectations for the city's future. However, while the inspector enthusiastically speaks, Ryota reflects on other matters and asks Emily for help as he decided to test something. A few days later, the duo goes to a remote location where they leave behind a tuna they bought for 1.5 million pylos because it's part of what Ryota intends to test. When the tuna transforms into a lost creature, they see that the monster is a gorilla similar to the one that attacked the city of Sekro. Emily is a bit apprehensive, but Ryota is confident and starts with multiple freezing shots to immobilize the monster. Then he moves in to attack the creature directly. After a few shots, the gorilla is defeated, and like the last time, it drops a weapon with some ammunition. Ryota is excited because now it will be easier to use combined bullets. Seeing this, Emily is concerned that he might be heading down a dangerous path, but Ryota reassures her that everything will be fine. The next time Ryota goes to the market, Ezra tells him there's a strike going on. There's a group called Adalbert occupying the 6th floor of the Silicon Dungeon, the only place where rice drops. Their demand is an increase in the selling price of rice in Sekro, or they won't sell it anymore. As a result, Ryota goes to the entrance of the Silicon Dungeon, where many people are camping. He wants to talk to the group's leader, but Neptune is the first person he encounters. Neptune explains that they've done this a few times with other dungeons, but now the people of the city have lost patience. Ryota asks if Neptune's group is going to deal with these guys, but he replies that they will deal with them. Before any confrontation, Ryota offers to try to resolve the problem. So he goes to the 6th floor of the dungeon, where he encounters a group of adventurers. Everyone prepares to face him, seeing that the city's people have decided to take action. However, Ryota makes a double shot, combining the bullets, and they knock down the entire group. At that moment, Neptune appears out of nowhere and asks how he did that. Ryota explains that he has this healing bullet, which, to everyone's surprise, serves to heal wounds. However, when two of them are used at once, they become a tranquilizer bullet that puts the target to sleep. He recalls the first time he managed to combine the ammunition back in the Arseny dungeon, the first thing being a shot with a fire and an ice bullet which formed an elimination bullet. With a question from Emily, he ended up testing other combinations and realized that the possibilities are practically endless, all thanks to this second weapon. Taking advantage of the guy's presence, Ryota asks for help in getting the men out of the dungeon. Outside with the striking group tied up, a bald man named Clint Gray seems to recognize Ryota. He introduces himself as the head of Sekro's dungeons. Ryota isn't quite sure what that means, but it's clear that it's an authoritative position. They share coffee as Clint asks Ryota for a favor. Clint wants Ryota's support in the fight against a neighboring city over a new dungeon. All the dungeons to the east of Sekro drop meat, and the neighboring city Hetero is known for its livestock. However, a new dungeon has appeared right on the border between Hetero and Sekro, and it drops 50% meat and 50% vegetables. If there were more vegetables, Sekro could claim it. Upon hearing this, Ryota asks if it's really necessary to decide to which city this dungeon belongs. Clint stands up and explains that every time items dropped in dungeons are sold, a tax is applied to their value. Thus, owning dungeons can change the entire economy of a city. When he finishes speaking, Clint is already almost on top of Ryota, but he quickly regains his composure and grabs a handful of sugar and eats it all at once, not even worrying about developing diabetes. In any case, since the possession of the dungeon cannot be determined by what it drops, as it drops exactly half of each type of item, they decided to determine it based on who collects more rare drops. That's why Clint wants Ryota's help, as he is known for being very strong and having excellent drop rates. Regardless of the outcome, even if Sekro loses, Ryota will be rewarded, and his drops will be exempt from all taxes. After accepting the proposal, Ryota returns home, already reflecting on how nice it is to be recognized for his own work. He also imagines how he will prepare with weapons and ammunition, along with his magical cart and changes of clothes. At that moment, Ryota realizes that this situation feels like a work trip, like the ones he used to take in the other world, when he would overexert himself. But in this world, he has Emily. Thinking of her, he has an idea and rushes home. When he tells Emily about the proposal, she finds it all incredible, as investigating a dungeon is normally a job for groups like Neptune. She says she'll take care of things at home while he's away, but Ryota wants her to come along. Suddenly, Eve appears from behind a counter to ask about her carrots, so he says they'll get a good amount of them to leave with her before they leave. The day of the trip arrives, and the duo passes through a deserted area. When Ryota comments on there being nothing in this place, Emily says that the only things they haven't seen as lost creatures, to her knowledge, are air, water, and earth. So places with few people, like cities and dungeons, are basically like this, with nothing. Afterward, Emily picks up a stone to draw in the sand, as long journeys can be tiring, so she hopes this will lift their spirits. When she finishes her drawing, Emily names it Mr. Bean's Sprout, since sprouts are a source of energy. Inspired by this, Ryota also draws something on the ground, and the two depart, leaving their drawings hand in hand, with the word strength beneath them. At night, the duo sets up a tent, which impresses Ryota due to its size, having been brought in such a small backpack. While Ryota goes to fetch water, Emily does something inside the tent that makes a lot of noise. He heads toward the tent, thinking about how he's used to their home and sleeping outside will probably be difficult, especially having to wake up early to get used carrots. However, when he enters the tent, everything is surprisingly comfortable with lighting, furniture, and good food. He asks how she brought all of this, and Emily replies that it was all inside the backpack, making Ryota believe it's from another dimension. She got so excited about the trip that she even made a fluffy dessert. After the meal, Emily decides to go out to burn the trash. She explains that in the city are people who do this job, but since they're isolated, they have to do it themselves. The trash needs to be incinerated to turn into lost creatures. When Emily mentions that the monsters generated from the trash are much stronger and different from the common ones, Ryota decides to see what happens when defeating these creatures. After waiting for a while, the trash generates a lost creature similar to Frankenstein's monster. The battle begins, but neither Emily's strength nor the flaming bullet does any damage to the creature. However, two combined fire bullets create a more powerful attack that instantly defeats the monster. The next day, they create a lost slime to test the bullet that dropped from the monster. It's a green ammunition that curves and follows the target, hitting even after a missed shot. Ryota is pleased with the new ammunition, while Emily worries about the danger. Sometime later, they finally arrive at the Selen dungeon, which is located on the border between the two cities. There are many people camping at the entrance, which was expected due to people from both cities being present. The duo passes by a pile of trash that has accumulated due to the number of people on the site. Since there are so many people, it's unlikely to turn into a lost creature, but it's still potentially dangerous. However, a woman uses fire magic to burn it all down. Although another pile forms quickly, and Ryota realizes the woman can't handle it all. Upon seeing the woman's exhausted face, Ryota understands how she feels, recalling his own exhaustion from working long hours in his previous job. So he and Emily approach her to insist she take a rest. She says she's fine but can't conjure the next spell and eventually passes out. While Ryota holds the staff so it doesn't fall to the ground, she continues to resist and rises again to keep trying to burn the trash, because she knows that all the other adventurers depend on her. Ryota says he's seen a lot of this, people crushed by too much responsibility, ending up with their health and will to live ruined, and some, like him, end up going home early. So when the girl keeps trying to cast the spell, the guy says he doesn't want to see that happening again and fires a double shot that brings the girl down. But of course he didn't hurt her, he just fired 2 healing bullets, turning them into tranquilizer bullets so that the mage can rest. The girl wakes up some time later and realizes it's already late. She quickly worries about work and rushes outside, where she sees several lost ones appearing near the trash pile. She thinks it's a disaster already, but then Ryota appears, shooting down all the monsters and collecting the drops of guided ammunition. Next, Emily instructs the other adventurers to continue bringing the rest of the trash. Seeing that the mage has awakened, they suggest she should rest a bit more, but Ryota thinks she might be hungry, so they take her to eat. The tent they set up is near the trash collection site, so they don't have to worry about potential lost ones appearing. The girl tries the food and ends up crying while saying it's delicious. Emily recognizes that the girl has a similar personality to Ryota's and finally introduces herself as Celeste. After chatting for a bit, she explains that there are so many adventurers in the area because until it's determined which city the dungeon belongs to, the drops are tax-free. As a result, the amount of trash has increased significantly. Ryota says that getting rid of the trash shouldn't be a responsibility of just one person, so they will help her during their free time to avoid overburdening her. At this point, Celeste reveals that this is the only job she can do, but she falls asleep shortly after. Ryota says that her sleeping might be due to the relief of finally being able to share the burden she carried alone. The next day, Celeste wakes up with much more power since resting allowed her to recover a lot of mana. Emily suggests that to avoid exhaustion again, she can continue resting in their tent until everything is finished. The girl is hesitant to take advantage of their kindness, but she eventually accepts the offer. After that, Emily and Ryota visit the local shops, making it seem like the place is a small town. They stop at a jewelry vendor who mentions that they are having good sales because men who are going to work in the dungeon are buying these items as gifts for their wives. Ryota thinks things are too expensive, especially the rings, but Emily shows some interest in the jewelry and mentions that rings are very special items. Later, Ryota goes to the separate headquarters and meets a man named Duke. The man shows a map of the dungeon, revealing that it has 10 floors. They already know which drops are available. Monsters on even-numbered floors drop meat, while those on odd-numbered floors drop vegetables. Therefore, they cannot decide ownership of the dungeon based on drops, so it will be determined by who can collect more rare drops from their respective floors within a certain time frame. Ryota gets ready to do the job, but Duke tells him that he doesn't need to hunt monsters, as adventurers who find rare monsters on the vegetable floors will capture them and wait for him. They only need Ryota to focus on obtaining rare items. Inside, Ryota finds it impressive that they've developed all this planning around him, something that would never have happened in his previous life. A man arrives, informing them about a rare monster found on the first floor. We then see an adventurer holding the strange creature, waiting for Ryota to finish it off. Duke explains that as long as they have the monster in custody, it belongs to them. When Ryota sees a group of people watching, Duke explains that the eldest among them is named Harvard, who has the same role as him, but in the Dungeon Association of the city of Hetero. Beside him is the young adventurer named Eugene, who has excellent abilities but an F-rank drop rate for vegetables. Eugene was brought there specifically to defeat rare monsters on the vegetable floors, and since his drop rate is so bad, he won't drop anything from those monsters, reducing Sekro's chances of obtaining rare items. Without further ado, Ryota prepares and shoots the strange creature, but it regenerates and grows even larger. It turns out this creature can only be defeated by destroying the core located somewhere on its body. Injuring any other part causes it to regenerate and grow in size. Eugene already knows exactly where the core is, and while Ryota prepares for shots with effects, the monster escapes, leaving the drop free for anyone who can eliminate the creature first. The boy chases after the monster with great agility, and when he's about to make an attack, Ryota raises his weapon and fires a guided shot that hits the creature's core before Eugene, immediately finishing off the monster. The boy asks if Ryota can also see the core, but he only says that maybe he can. Duke announces that he dropped soybean sprouts, which is a rare item, and this means Sekro is ahead. For his contribution, Ryota receives a good amount of money and also gains possession of the soybean sprout, which he can sell at the trading post. When he gets home, Celeste is sleeping and he tells Emily what happened in the dungeon. Then he shows her an item he bought, the ring they saw earlier. He offers the ring to her, even though she thinks it's too expensive. However, Ryota mentions that he made good money on the first day and noticed that Emily finds the ring special. For Ryota, what's special is having found Emily, so he wants to give her the ring. Thus, he places the ring on her finger and she's very happy with the gift. The next day, they check the status panel, which now shows a +1 bonus next to all of Emily's drop rates. It turns out that when Ryota was buying, the seller showed him another identical ring in stock, so he decided to see what kind of rare lost one would come from this expensive ring. When a giant monster appeared, Ryota easily defeated it and dropped another ring, but this one had embedded effects. So they decide to test this effect. On the second floor of the cell and dungeon, Emily attacks a monster with her hammer until she defeats it, dropping a chicken breast. The girl is very happy because it's the first time she's gotten a meat drop, as her animal drop rate was previously an F rank, a rank so bad that some dungeons don't allow people with such a rate to enter. Suddenly, a rare monster from this floor appears and the local adventurers show some difficulty in dealing with it. Emily is hit, so Ryota prepares to eliminate the creature. However, Harvard appears, encouraging Ryota to do just that. Since Ryota has excellent drop rates, defeating this monster can help the city of Hetero balance the competition against Sekiro. At that moment, Emily takes off the ring and hands it to Ryota, who understands her plan. He prepares freezing bullets and makes several shots, immobilizing the creature and allowing the girl to defeat the monster with a precise blow. As her drop rate for meat returns to rank F without the ring, she doesn't drop anything from this monster, which turns out to be a great advantage for Sekiro. After that, Duke thanks Ryota for his action, but Ryota tells him that it was his partner who did it, so Duke says that she should receive a reward, but there is a bigger problem to deal with at the moment. More adventurers from Hetero are arriving, and soon the rivals will have triple the number of adventurers in the dungeon. However, they're not there to collect meat drops, but to fill the vegetable drop floors with rank F adventurers, which will greatly disrupt Sekiro's performance. So Duke thinks they may have to do the same thing, but Ryota has another idea to handle everything on the same day. What he wants is to collect rare drops from floors 3, 5, 7, and 9 right away. Ryota asks the man to increase the reward for rare monsters so that adventurers focus more on capturing them and he can finish off the creatures as soon as possible. Duke is hesitant because if they increase the investment and don't get rare drops, it could be a huge loss. However, Ryota assures him that he has a 100% chance of dropping rare items and promises to cover the investment if he doesn't get the rare items by defeating these monsters. Thus, Duke agrees and they go after the creatures. On the 3rd floor, the rare monster was an evil butterfly. On the 5th floor, it was a Paragurso panda. On the 7th floor, it was a stone golem. What bothers Ryota is that these so-called rare drops were trivial things to him, like parsley and radish sprouts. Finally, he's on the 9th floor, facing a rare monster that looks like a hydra, with multiple snake-like heads. The weak point of this creature is one of the heads, but whenever one of them regenerates, the weak point changes. To face this creature, Ryota fires several guided bullets in succession, hitting almost all of them at the same time. This defeats the monster, which drops a type of mushroom. Ryota also finds this drop to be unimpressive. With that, Duke celebrates because the competition is practically won. He goes out to report everything to the headquarters. Ryota is happy that he accepted his suggestion and invested in it, treating him differently from his previous life when they rejected all his ideas at work. As the man is leaving with the magic cart, a group of Hetero adventurers surrounds him, led by Yujin. It turns out that all of them are rank F and only needed to disrupt Sekiro to make good money, but now they don't need them anymore because of Ryota. A mage in the group casts a spell with the same effect as a Mana Storm, believing that Ryota would need magic to fire magical projectiles. What they want is to beat him up so he can't work for a while. However, when the guys advance, Ryota shows that not only is his drop rate rank S, but his strength is 2, and he doesn't need weapons to beat them down. After knocking down some of them, he fires a shot just to show that a Mana Storm doesn't stop him from using projectiles. After that, he heals all the guys and tells them that he's felt the way they do before, and if they want, they can attack him because he can heal anyone who gets hurt in this fight, but he won't let himself get hurt because someone is waiting for him at home. Eugene says he's envious because Ryota has someone, so Ryota tells him that he didn't always have that person and maybe the boy will find someone like that one day. The man arrives home and Emily tells him that dinner is ready, so he expresses relief and how good it is to be back home. To congratulate Ryota on his excellent work, Emily makes a lot of food. The guy thinks it's a bit of an exaggeration, but Celeste also praises his performance. However, Ryota says that it hasn't been decided yet that the dungeon will belong to the city of Sekiro, and everything will only end when the decision is made. Only then can they return to the city. Suddenly, Emily appears with a cake she baked using a campfire, and she also mentions that there's ice cream, surprising her two friends. The next day, Ryota sees Celeste outside the tent, conjuring very powerful fire magic with a small amount of garbage until she almost faints. So Ryota holds her and uses a healing potion. As this brings them very close to each other, Celeste gets embarrassed and pushes him away. She tries to suppress her emotions because she feels her heart racing and her face turning warm. Patting her own face, she manages to calm down, and Ryota asks if she needed to use such powerful magic for such a small amount of garbage. Celeste replies that this is the only magic she can use, level 3 fire magic, Inferno. When Ryota asks about levels 1 and 2, Celeste simply says she can't use them. When the next garbage load arrives, Celeste prepares to cast the magic, but Ryota acts before her with a flaming bullet to set the garbage on fire. He says it'll help now that he has more free time after finishing his work in the dungeon. The problem is that over time, the garbage keeps piling up. No matter how much they burn, more keeps appearing. Celeste then explains that this day is an exception because it seems the dungeon master has appeared. Since he doesn't understand what she's talking about, Emily and Celeste explain that the dungeon boss appears a few times a year. Since it's a very strong monster, nobody can enter the dungeon for now, so everyone is eating out of anxiety, which is why there is so much garbage accumulating. Celeste is feeling down, but Emily tries to motivate her friend, saying that they will definitely form an extermination group soon to get everything back to normal. When Ryota tells Celeste to rest, she refuses, but he tells her she'll end up passing out again if she continues like this, so she doesn't need to push herself so hard. At his request, Emily offers to take care of Celeste, while Ryota prepares to continue incinerating the garbage. However, to the group's dismay, the garbage pile grows large again the next day. Emily is still hopeful because she thinks the extermination team must have been sent by now. Ryota decides to go check it out because it would be easier to handle if they knew what they were up against. He leaves while telling Celeste not to overdo it. The mage says she wants to know why he's always so kind to her, but Emily says that's just how Ryota is. He can't ignore someone in trouble, and he acts the same way in Sekiro. When Ryota arrives at the headquarters, he finds Neptune and the two women talking to Duke, who explains that he asked for Neptune's group's help to defeat the dungeon master. Ryota is excited, but the situation isn't as simple as he thought. Duke explains that the agreement with the city of Hetero was that if the dungeon master appeared, both cities would join forces to exterminate it. The problem is that even though Sekiro decided to send Neptune's group, Hetero's side isn't doing anything to send a group. The blue-haired girl says this is convenient for them because if the dungeon master remains active for too long, the dungeon's ecology can change and consequently, the drop items change as well. At the moment, the dungeon is practically owned by Sekiro. But if that happens, they will be back to square one, and that's what the city of Hetero wants the most. Ryota wants to handle this individually, putting aside the idea of a joint effort, but Duke can't allow him to do that. The pink-haired girl explains that according to the rules, only a group of at least 3 rank A adventurers can enter this dungeon because the dungeon master is really powerful. Ryota seeks Neptune's help, but since he was summoned through a contract, he can't do anything on his own. Besides, when Ryota tries to seek help from other adventurers at the camp, Neptune explains that it will be difficult because most people are only there to make money with tax exemptions, and no one is willing to face a dungeon master. When Ryota returns to the tent, Emily is excited because she knows he's going to face the dungeon master, and she wants to go with him. Knowing the rules regarding the extermination group, Celeste is also determined to go with them, forming a group of 3. Regarding the garbage, there's now someone to take care of that task for her, Eugene, who's just arrived but not alone. Other adventurers are helping with the bonfire. With that, the group is practically ready to go, but Ryota also mentions the rule about rank A adventurers, so Celeste shows her status, revealing she is rank A in intelligence and motivation, but rank F in all drop rates. Knowing that Ryota will leave for Sekiro soon, Celeste wants to be able to help him at least with this mission. The 3 move to the first floor of the Cellen dungeon, where there are no monsters because when the dungeon master is present, all other monsters hide. Suddenly, the ground starts to crack, and the adventurers need to move away to avoid getting hurt. The dungeon master emerges from the hole, resembling a horse but with 2 horns. Celeste says she's heard of this. It's a monster that corrupts purity, a unicorn. Soon, Ryota and Emily rush to confront the creature, which also advances. When Emily attacks, it creates an energy shield to protect itself, causing her to fall to the ground. The unicorn then approaches the fallen Emily, but when it's about to attack, Ryota makes a double shot, but it can't penetrate the magical barrier. At least it gives Emily time to escape the attack. In the next confrontation, the creature advances again, so Celeste uses her fire magic. The flames don't penetrate the barrier, but they keep the creature still long enough for Ryota to make another double shot, this time strong enough to break the barrier, leaving the unicorn exposed. Emily takes advantage and leaps to deliver another blow, hitting the monster and pushing it back a bit. Next, Ryota fires several shots, but the barrier reappears before he can hit it. At least now he knows he can break the barrier with combined shots, so he says he wants to use the same sequence of attacks. Meanwhile, Duke receives the news that Ryota has entered the dungeon. Neptune finds it amusing, but Duke thinks it's no laughing matter because unicorns are terrible enemies. In the meantime, the group continues to dominate the battle, but the monster is very resilient and keeps getting up even after so many attacks. All they can do is keep attacking, but the unicorn now uses a magical ability that creates a shining circle beneath it. When Emily advances and steps on the circle, she becomes weakened. Then the area of the circle reaches Ryota and Celeste, and he hears the system voice saying that all their stats have dropped by 2 points, except for HP and strength. Emily confronts the enemy head-on but is thrown away with the impact, and she also had her stats reduced. Celeste is so exhausted that she collapses because she has no more mana points. She's very tired, so as not to let her force herself any further, Ryota asks Emily to take care of her while he continues to fight. At this moment, Celeste apologizes because she feels like a burden to the team, but Ryota acknowledges that she has done more than enough to help them, so she should rest for a while because her health is more important than her assistance at the moment. He returns to the battle, while Celeste recalls how nobody has ever said such kind words to her before. She also remembers how she struggled with the incineration service, where despite her maximum effort, all she received were complaints and criticism. But Ryota was the only one who recognized her help, and that made her very happy. With renewed determination, she gets up, intending to do her best. Celeste uses the Inferno magic to destroy the unicorn's barrier. Then Emily throws her hammer to Ryota, who jumps onto the monster and delivers a powerful blow that breaks one of its horns and knocks it to the ground, defeating it instantly. Afterward, Ryota checks on Celeste and thanks her for her help, which makes her happier than ever. Ryota then collects the unicorn's drop, which consists of 2 small golden horns. She hesitates to accept it, but Ryota and Emily convince her. The item's effect allows Celeste to use level 1 magic unlimitedly. As a way to thank her for her effort, they tell her that this is how they want to show their gratitude, and this touches her deeply. Later, they share the news with Duke, who is completely shocked to hear that the Dungeon Master was defeated by the group. In any case, he decides to act quickly to check if there have been any changes in the dungeon's ecology, so he rushes off while Neptune's friends arrive at the scene, praising the teen for their achievement. The blue-haired girl says that Ryota is blessed with good companions. While praising each other's performance, Ryota agrees with the girl's statement, but suddenly realizes that Neptune hasn't shown up and asks where he is. In another location, Neptune confronts the representative of the city of Hetero, blaming him for missing the opportunity to fight alongside Ryota. Apparently, the man is facing severe punishment, but it's not shown what exactly happened. The next day, Celeste starts using the unicorn horns to cast level 1 magic and burn the garbage without getting exhausted. Ryota approaches her and she says she never thought she could use level 1 magic and it feels like a dream. They also discuss the news that it has been confirmed that there have been no changes in the ecology of the Sullen dungeon, so it now belongs to the city of Sekro. Ryota mentions that it's been busy days, but it's finally over. Celeste asks when he's going back to Sekro, and he says it will probably be the next day. Celeste seems a bit nervous about something, and suddenly he invites her to go with them, and she also immediately says she wants to go. As a result, she is surprised, but Ryota comments on what they said about being good companions, so he thought it was a good idea to formalize a team. Celeste says she likes the idea, so when Ryota suggests talking to Emily, she appears out of nowhere, saying she agrees and revealing that she's been there the whole time. She's excited about the 3 of them forming the Ryota family. Remember, she calls Ryota that because she never understood his name. With that, everyone is happy to start this new chapter in their adventures. In Sekro, we find Eve munching on some small carrots because apparently the ones Ryota left have run out. She's feeling down because they're not as good and she misses his carrots a lot. Speaking of Ryota, he's finally returning to Sekro, along with Emily and Celeste. The city seems quite busy, and upon seeing a stall selling carrots, he wonders how Eve is doing. At that moment, they encounter Ezra, who is happy to see them back but is surprised by Celeste, asking who she is. Ryota introduces the mage and explains that the 3 of them are forming a group, which leaves Ezra even more surprised that he's forming a group with such a beautiful girl. However, she disguises her jealousy by talking about his performance news and how she's glad a customer has become famous. Furthermore, Ezra mentions she has a request regarding the Harvest Festival and tells him to visit the store when he has time. Then she hurries off. Since the group doesn't know about this festival, Celeste does some research with Emily and they gather later to discuss the matter. This event is celebrated once a year in the city of Sekro. The items dropped in dungeons are collected and displayed. In the exhibition, the items are transformed into lost for elimination in an arena with the goal of showcasing both the item and the monster. At this moment, Celeste takes the opportunity to ask why they are talking in this specific place, near the entrance to the Nihonium dungeon. Ryota explains that he went to the 3rd floor of the dungeon to increase his speed, but quickly reached the maximum rank for that attribute. Therefore, he moved on to the 4th floor, where he faced some difficulty but eventually managed to defeat the monsters and increase his vitality points with the seeds dropped. He then shows the box he used to store the collected seeds. In no time, the drops turn into several mummies and Ryota ends them quickly, obtaining dark ammunition defined as containment bullets. With Celeste unsure about lost dropping items, Ryota mentions that it's a secret he doesn't tell anyone, but he showed her because she's now part of the group. Suddenly, an explosion in the city causes a lot of commotion. Fleeing citizens warn that a rare drop has turned into a lost. The monster is a rather strange creature, and the group springs into action. However, the creature doesn't take any damage from Celeste's flame tower or Emily's hammer blow. So, Ryota advances and grabs the monster with force, tossing it up while preparing the containment bullets. He fires a double shot that creates lines around the creature, immobilizing it on the ground and then finishes it with another double shot. The creature drops a type of bag. The only issue in this battle is Emily's hammer, which ends up with a bent handle. She tries to straighten it but ends up breaking it completely. That night, Eve hears that Ryota faced the Lost, confirming his return to the city. The next day, a weapons merchant named Smith visits the Ryota family, wanting to sell a new hammer to Emily because he heard her weapon broke. Since the group has become famous for their actions in selling, he wants to provide Emily with a hammer for free in exchange for using it as publicity worldwide. She is initially reluctant, but the man convinces her to accept the deal by offering the new hammer for free. Sometime later in Nihonium, Ryota encounters that group of the princess again. He asks how their business is going, but it is revealed that the princess's air crates are not selling very well, wonder why. Therefore, Ryota advises them to advertise a new product related to the princess. The first idea that comes to mind is her underwear, but that would be too revealing. So, Ryota suggests creating a brand of princess rings. The guy thinks it's a brilliant idea, but while expressing his gratitude, the princess is cornered by undead creatures. Ryota acts quickly, defeating the monsters and saving her life. The girl thanks him, and the man decides to offer Ryota the princess's ring as a token of gratitude, mentioning it will be the first piece produced with her brand. Initially, Ryota declines, but the princess insists that the first piece should be his. Meanwhile, Emily is checking the durability of the handle that will be used to make the next hammer. Suddenly, Eve appears looking for Ryota. Emily tells her that he went to Nihonium first, then to Telulu, and finally to Ezra's store. So the rabbit girl rushes off, heading first to the Nihonium dungeon. At this point, Ryota is already in Telulu, now wearing a pouch on his waist, the bag dropped by the strange Lost. This pouch automatically captures dropped items, and that's the only reason the princess and the others didn't realize that he had dropped the seeds from the undead creatures. Now he plans to make some money with the items from Telulu. Meanwhile, in Nihonium, Eve is frantically searching for him everywhere. Since she can't find him, she goes to the market and encounters Ezra, but Ryota hasn't arrived yet. Sometime later, he shows up to make a sale and also listens to Ezra's request regarding a harvest festival. First, she asks what he knows about the festival, and he explains that he heard about the exhibition of items dropped in dungeons, where they transform those items into lost to be faced in the arena. The favor Ezra requests is that he collects items that are difficult to obtain, specifically rare dungeon items that normal adventurers can acquire. Of course, it won't be for free. The market will pay for everything he collects. So Ryota accepts the task, and Ezra hands him a list of the required items. At that moment, another vendor arrives to pay for the items Ryota sold. In total, the payment amounts to 40,000 pylos currency. Ryota notices that the money is in small denominations, even including coins. The one explains that the person responsible for collecting money in the dungeons was arrested for corruption, causing a shortage of money in circulation. Ryota is surprised to learn that even money is dropped in dungeons and decides to see what kind of loss emerges from a 10,000 pillow note. The monster then appears as a giant blue bird that quickly takes flight. Ryota wastes no time and begins shooting, but as the creature is fast, none of the shots hit until he uses the homing ammunition. When the creature is eliminated, the dropped item automatically appears in his pouch, and it's a potion that boosts the drop rate of plants by 3 levels for 10 minutes. Since he already has a rank S in all drops, this potion is of no use to him. Suddenly, Eve appears and grabs him, knocking him to the ground and pleads for his carrots. So they head to the 2nd level of Telulu, where he collects several carrots for her. The rabbit girl is overjoyed and starts eating. He suggests that she could have asked her teammates for carrots since she wanted them so badly, but she insists that none of the carrots are as good as his, and she also stopped traveling with the others due to dungeon vision differences. Ryota doesn't understand what she means, so Eve explains that she's a rabbit who only wants carrots, while the group wanted other things, and such disagreements are common. She also mentions that rabbits are strong and don't mind being alone, adding that companions only cause trouble. At this moment, Eve shares her backstory with Ryota while recounting this story. She used to live with other rabbits in a dungeon but preferred to eat only meat. She didn't want to eat any vegetables or greens. So when her companions insisted too much, she ran away, having her first disagreement with the companions. Sometime later, she defeated a buffalo that was supposed to drop a carrot, but instead dropped a boy. He thought he was in a haunted mansion, and that the rabbit girl was a ghost. When another buffalo appeared, she weakened it so he could finish it by throwing an item at it. This caused a carrot to drop. At first, Eve told him to throw it away because she hated carrots, but the boy said you can't be picky with food. He then split the carrot in half to share it with her, making her try it. She ended up liking the taste very much. Seeing this, the boy offered her the other half, and this act made Eve consider him a good companion. However, shortly after, the boy started to glow and disappeared. At that moment, distant voices could be heard, likely the boy's parents asking where he had gone, while he told them he had defeated a huge monster. Back in the present, the rabbit girl tells Ryota that because of that boy, she started seeking delicious carrots at all costs, which is why she says companions are not good. Ryota comments that her opinion is quite extreme but advises her to collect her own carrots so she doesn't have to rely on others. The problem is that Eve has a very low drop rate, only rank D, so Ryota says he has something to give her. He takes out the potion that dropped earlier and tells her to drink it. Eve obeys, and only then does he reveal that with her drop rate at rank D, drinking this potion should bring her up to rank A. She tests her newfound ability by defeating the first green slime that appears. This time, the dropped carrot is almost as large as the ones Ryota collects. She tries it and genuinely loves the unique taste as well as the feeling of having dropped it herself. Afterward, she asks where she can buy this type of potion, and Ryota reveals that it's not sold anywhere because it's a special item that only he can drop. This information shocks the rabbit girl, and suddenly, she starts begging to become a member of his group. It's such a sudden request that Ryota mentions what she just said about not having companions, but she admits she was wrong, saying that companions are good because they provide potions and excellent carrots. Ryota points out that this isn't the definition of a companion since it's a trait unique to him. Nevertheless, the rabbit girl continues to plead at his feet so persistently that he eventually agrees. She hugs him, professing her love for him. With that, the duo returns home. Emily excitedly shows off her new hammer, which is indeed very cool. However, she changes the subject when she notices Eve getting so close to Ryota. Ryota then introduces the newest member of the Ryota family. While Celeste is surprised, Emily is overjoyed and welcomes her friend, who continues to express her love for Ryota. On the next day, Celeste feels unwell with a headache due to a mana storm. As a magic user, she suffers like this when a mana storm occurs, but she knows she'll get better once the storm passes. With this in mind, Ryota decides that instead of exploring a dungeon that day, they will look for a larger house because the family is growing. He wonders if there's a house that can mitigate the effects of the mana storm, and to everyone's surprise, there is. The group finds a house that meets Ryota's criteria, and when the door closes, Celeste's headache instantly disappears. The seller explains that this property has very modern methods of mana storm prevention, making it perfect for magic users. Additionally, Emily is enchanted by the huge kitchen. With all these advantages, the rent price is quite high, 400,000 pylos. The girls are taken aback, but Ryota immediately accepts it because his first criterion is that it should be a house where Celeste and Emily can always smile, and seeing how much better Celeste felt when they entered, he has no doubts about this decision. With that said, they proceed with the move. The next day, when the mana storm has passed, the house is completely organized and clean thanks to Emily, who managed to do it all in just one day. Celeste asks what they should do today, and Eve suggests going after carrots, but Ryota wants to prioritize the list of rare items for the Harvest Festival that Ezra requested, so he wants to search for rare monsters on the 7th floor of Telulu. Of course, they'll also gather some carrots for the rabbit girl. Then Emily appears with breakfast and everyone gathers to eat. The 7th floor of Telulu has an unusual feature. It's snowy. Ryota finds it strange that it's snowing in a dungeon, but Celeste explains that it happens on some dungeon floors. He compliments her knowledge, and she modestly accepts the praise while secretly feeling pleased. As they walk, they encounter that trio of adventurers, the two young ones and the old man they saw on another floor a long time ago. The old man gives a speech about how he's moved by their progress because the young ones have become stronger with a lot of effort. Stating that the young ones are also emotional, Ryota concludes that they've undergone complete brainwashing. Emily notices his expression, but he says it's nothing. Next, they encounter a different monster, a pink slime with fire on its head, which ignites its eyes as well after taking 2 shots. Ryota tries several other shots, but none seem to harm the monster, which retaliates with a charge attack. Celeste warns that this is a tough slime and it becomes invulnerable when near death, not taking damage from the last person who attacked it. Therefore, one person needs to weaken it for another to finish it off. Celeste defeats the slime with a fire attack. Eve comments that these are creatures designed to be challenging for solo players, and they are quite common. So the strategy for this floor is to let the girls engage the monsters so that Ryota can deliver the final blow. They manage to obtain onion drops by defeating the tough slime. Eve isn't particularly fond of onions. She says she only likes carrots. Emily then suggests making curry with potato, onion, and carrot pieces to pique the rabbit girl's interest. Ryota finds this amusing, but before continuing the curry conversation, he is hit by a stronger purple slime with different eyes and fire from the previous one. He realizes that this is the rare monster on this floor. Celeste explains that it's an ultra-tough slime requiring a second person to defeat it. However, it has an additional ability. When near death, it reflects back all attacks against it, so they must be careful when weakening it. Therefore, Eve volunteers to handle the weakening because she knows how much HP it has from a previous encounter. She makes an attack and Ryota finishes it off. The monster drops a blue gem with the effect of reflecting some attacks when equipped. Before leaving the dungeon, they visit the second floor to test the gem's effect. Ryota holds the item while a green slime attacks him until it's defeated with reflected damage. It's an interesting item, but Ryota knows it would be faster to attack the monster directly. Afterward, Ryota takes the item to sell to Ezra. She calls the gem a slime tear, recognizing it as a rare item from the 7th floor. Of course, she doesn't hesitate to buy it from him, as thanks to Ryota, the store's ranking and trust level continue to rise. She pays the item's full value, 3 million pylos. It's impressive, and the price is at its highest just in time for the Harvest Festival. As they exit the shop, they come across a girl in green who enters looking for a group to join. No one wants to accept such a young girl, and Ezra seems moved by the situation. Sometime later, we see Ryota on the 5th floor of Nihonium. He faces a red-skinned skeleton that is very fast. However, with rank SP, he has no difficulty defeating the creature. The seed it drops increases his MP by 1 point. He knows these are mana points needed to use magic, but he doesn't know how to learn a spell. To solve this with Celeste's help, Ryota spends 3 million pylos on an Akuma no Me, which means a magical fruit. She explains that normally people learn magic gradually as they level up, but since that's not possible for Ryota, he can eat this magical fruit to learn a random spell. The fruit has a strange symbol, but before eating it, Ryota decides to transform into a lost to test it. The monster the fruit turns into is a metal sphere that takes on Ryota's shape when he approaches. Not only that, it's fast, strong, and resistant like the original. He concludes that the copy must have about 80% of his attributes, and after a little battle, he defeats the creature, which drops another fruit, now with 2 symbols. As expected, he learns 2 spells. One is the Cutting Wind spell, a level 1 wind magic. The other one he prefers to demonstrate. Against a blue slime that turns red after Celeste's attack, Ryota uses the reserve spell and then uses a containment bullet, allowing Emily to finish it off with the final blow. This time, the drop is very good. The truth is, if he uses this spell on a monster, his drop rates apply to whoever defeats the creature, meaning he can give someone else a rank as drop. Emily is thrilled because this also helped her level up, and the group is excited to grow stronger together. The next day, Ryota encounters Ezra carrying some boxes and offers to help because they seem heavy. She accepts, and when they arrive at the market, Ryota notices the girl in green asking to join a group. The problem is, she encounters that old man with outdated ideas who says she has potential. Ezra explains that the girl has been trying to join a group for a while, but no one accepts her because she's young and has level 2 as her maximum level. Before she falls for the old man's idea, Ryota interrupts and says he wants her in his group and won't back down, especially not if it means letting her join that old man's group. To assist, Ezra puts on a show, congratulating the girl on joining the Yoda family and saying that it's the most talked about group in the city, making it a great honor. She finishes by telling the girl how lucky she is. The other adventurers also know of Ryota's fame and confirm that he has an incredible reputation. With this, the girl agrees to join the group and introduces herself as Alice. To start, Ryota takes her to the status panel, where they see that her attributes are very low. Then he takes her to Nihonium's dungeon to help her level up. Alice mentions feeling nostalgic because she was born in a dungeon. It seems her mother was working in one when she was born. She also demonstrates an ability to sense the location of monsters. With this skill, they quickly find a horde of skeletons. Ryota restrains the monsters with containment bullets and lets the girl finish them off with rocks. When she levels up, her stats don't change much and she's already at the maximum level, which is level 2. Still, she asks to go back, saying that while they were inside, the skeleton told her to return soon. Not knowing what this means, Ryota accompanies the girl. She shows which skeleton told her that and asks Ryota to restrain the monster, which now wants her to defeat it. This time, instead of disappearing with the attack, the creature starts to glow and shrink, becoming a mini skeleton that will now walk with them. As strange as it may sound, they take Bones to Talulu's dungeon, where it grows slightly larger and faces a blue slime. After defeating the monster, it transforms back and restores all the damage it took. This creature also considers Alice an older sister because both were born in dungeons. Now she hears the call of a jelly, leading them to a blue slime that, like Bones, asks to be defeated. The skeleton loses its head in one blow but manages to hold onto its skull and use it as a weapon to defeat the opponent. This time, the same thing happens. The slime becomes very small and becomes their companion. Alice reveals that Bones is a girl and Jelly is a boy. Later, Ryota arrives home with Alice, but first, he notices Eve eating a carrot burger and being totally enamored with the taste. At this moment, Celeste comments on how cute Alice's creatures are and wants to pet them, but this scares the two of them. Emily didn't know that Celeste liked cute things so much, so she says she really wants to squeeze the creatures, but both Bones and Jelly keep hiding from her. Eve's reaction is the same as ours. She finds this strange. Only after this interaction, everyone sits down to talk. Alice introduces herself and Ryota says he really wants her in the group. Celeste immediately supports the idea. Eve asks if she likes carrots, and when Alice says she doesn't particularly like them, the rabbit girl is even more in favor of the idea because they'll never have to compete for carrots. Emily also has no objections. She is excited to welcome Alice, Bones, and Jelly into the Ryota family. The girl is overjoyed to be accepted into the group, and when the creatures reappear on her shoulder, Celeste nearly faints from their cuteness. And that's how the Ryota family grows even larger, with Ryota feeling that the days ahead will be even more exciting. On the day of the Harvest Festival, Ryota could only find Emily at home because Celeste and Eve had gone to Talulu, where a bunch of carrots had appeared. Meanwhile, Alice still tended to stay in her old house because Osada was still afraid of Celeste. Emily didn't go with the girls to the dungeon because she was going to the Harvest Festival, so Ryota went with her. The event featured various sale stalls and lots of decorations. Emily was very excited about everything, and Ryota noticed that she was much more excited than usual, probably because she used to live in the dungeon, so this must be her first festival. At a stall, Emily found some trinkets and thought they were all very cute. Ryota asked her which one she liked the most so they could buy it. When the vendor mentioned the price, the blonde girl hesitated as usual, but Ryota once again showed determination in his decision and bought the gift for her. She then attached the trinket to her hammer to keep it close at all times. Later, they met Alice, who told them about a really strange stall she had found. At the stall, the vendor announced that he was selling experience points, but in reality, he had the drops from a dungeon monster called Alco. The monster was called the Galvanic Rat and gave a lot of experience points to those who defeated it. They just needed to leave the box lying around to generate a spawn and defeat the rat to level up quickly. This was quite interesting, especially for using it with Emily, since Alice and Ryota couldn't level up anymore. So they picked up a box and left it to generate the Galvanic Rat spawn. When the creature appeared, Ryota began with a containment bullet to immobilize it, but before Emily finished it off, he used his reserve magic to transfer the drop rates. Then the girl used her hammer to defeat the monster, dropping a purple bullet. Alice was impressed because she thought the spawns didn't drop items. This purple ammunition was called Strengthening Bullet by the system's voice, so Ryota decided to test it. However, when he tried the first shot, only a magical symbol appeared in front of the barrel. The guy then picked up a normal bullet to test it, and when he fired, it became much more powerful. So the effect of this ammunition was to make the other bullets even stronger. Since it was a very useful effect, Ryota decided to buy more of those boxes to get more strengthening bullets. After collecting more of this ammunition, the trio walked through the festival, and they heard a strange noise and went to investigate. It turned out there was a monster that looked like a goblin. It was part of the festival but had managed to escape from its cage, and now everyone was in a panic. When the monster approached a defenseless child, Ryota rushed in to save the girl. The creature fell to the ground but was not defeated yet. When it got up, Ryota grabbed the child and ran away, while Emily advanced and delivered a powerful blow with her hammer. Again, the monster fell to the ground, but instead of being defeated, it grew even larger. Ryota realized that this creature must be growing by absorbing their attacks. Suddenly, the Neptune group appeared. The redhead greeted Ryota and commented that the monster had grown quite large. Nevertheless, Ryota didn't want to give up. He asked Neptune for help to protect the city. So he gave the command to the girls, who conjured simultaneously, forming dark and light magic circles. Underneath Neptune, a circle with both colors appeared, and on his back 2 wings emerged, one black and one white, while the redhead said he would show the power of the Neptune family. Ryota told them to prepare for a coordinated attack, and he fired the first containment bullet. With the monster immobilized, Emily delivered a powerful blow to its head. Ryota kept shooting while Neptune used a powerful ability, hitting the creature with a luminous beam in its chest, causing it to fall and disappear. With the problem resolved, the mother of the girl who was almost attacked thanked the adventurers. She explained that she had lost her daughter at the festival. The girl then approached to thank Ryota and said that when she grows up, she wants to be a great adventurer like him. With that said, Ryota gave her some advice to keep in mind. Remembering what Emily said at the beginning, he told her that hard work is always rewarded, so she should always give her best. Later, Celeste and Eve returned from the dungeon. The mage said that they had heard they were fighting a monster in the city, so they came to help, but they arrived too late, as the problem had already been solved with the help of the Neptune group. The redhead mentioned that defeating monsters was also part of their job, and he invited Ryota to join their group and work with them. But the answer remained no. This time, Neptune let the rejection pass as he was happy to have fought together that day. After the Neptunes left, Celeste said she was happy that their friends were okay. Since the girls were getting hungry, Ryota suggested they have lunch and enjoy the festival stalls that were still open. The group visited various stalls for shopping and games before stopping to eat. Alice fed Osada and Gelatina, and Celeste commented that they were very cute while eating. The most impressive sight was Eve eating a skewered barbecue, as it was the first time they had seen her eat something other than carrots. She then said that rabbits also like to eat meat. Alice mentioned a stall she had seen selling food made with carrots, but the rabbit girl said she only ate high-quality carrots. Ryota said she should try everything and not be so picky about food, but she replied that he was too cheeky for someone with a low level. After lunch, they continued exploring the festival, and while eating some candied apples, Alice mentioned that she had seen a bunch of monsters in one direction. At first, Ryota thought that more spawns had appeared, but Celeste said it must be the arena. Since Alice wasn't familiar with it, Ryota explained that the items they had collected had been turned into spawns to be faced in the arena. Celeste explained that the fighters participated in pairs and the winners received a rare item as a prize. Interested in the rare item, Ryota decided to participate. Emily asked who his partner would be, so he thought for a moment and chose Celeste. The girl was very surprised and emotional when he said she was the best choice. Ryota explained that it was a rational decision because of the knowledge she had that could help in battle, but this disappointed the girl who had a crush on him, as she was seen only as a battle companion. In the arena, the stands were packed and the girls who stayed outside were cheering for Celeste and Ryota. They faced an ultra-tough slime and the mage immediately started using fire attacks. Ryota commented that she was more aggressive than usual, and Celeste said it was just his imagination. With the creature now on fire and charging at them, Ryota finished it with a shot as it wouldn't make sense for Celeste to keep attacking due to the slime's ability. The audience celebrated the outcome and Ryota praised his partner for mastering the technique of reducing the monster's hit points just right. She thanked him and promised to work even harder to become a very special companion to him, just like Emily. Ryota said that she was already very special to him. And once again, the mage blushed at his comment. Later, with the Harvest Festival over, Ryota asked Celeste to show the rare item they had won in the arena. She then revealed a package of fireworks, which none of the girls knew exactly what it was. Ryota showed them how to use them, and they were all fascinated by the fireworks. He said that he never thought he would see something like this in that world. When the fireworks ended, he mentioned that he hadn't played with one of those since he was a child, and it was good to go share that moment with them. Alice mentioned that, on top of everything, it was her first time at a festival like this, so she was very happy. However, she suddenly felt strange and started walking as if in a trance. Ryota went to her and managed to snap her out of it. She said she was okay, but felt like someone was calling her. Ryota asked from which direction she felt that, and Alice pointed. Celeste recognized it as the direction of Nihonium, and asked if there was another monster trying to befriend her. But this time, Alice thought it was something else. Eve wished it was a creature that could provide infinite carrots or a carrot friend, but Emily said she would feel sorry for a carrot friend that the rabbit would end up eating. Since it was late, Ryota suggested they look into it later and told Alice to stay at their house. But he also warned Celeste to be careful, not to scare Osada and Gelatina. The next day, Ryota was summoned by the boss of the Sakura dungeons because there was a problem. The bald man asked him to sit down for coffee, or rather for Ryota to have coffee since Clid's cup was mostly sugar. The man then explained that nothing had dropped in any of the 6 dungeons in the city since the night before. Ryota was surprised, and the bald man admitted that he didn't know how long this would continue, so he asked him to investigate what was happening because he was the only one he could count on. Ryota once again committed to doing what he could to help. He went with the girls first to Telulu, where Emily defeated a slime but didn't drop anything, and the same happened on the other floors. Nearby, they saw a pair of adventurers who were very concerned about the situation since it was their job, and without drops, it couldn't pay their bills and support their families. With no other option, they continued exploring in the hopes of finding a place that dropped something. Ryota commented that the situation was getting complicated, and Celeste mentioned that prices were rising and people were stockpiling goods at home. Eve took a slime and told Ryota to make it drop a carrot. He said it was pointless to try, but she insisted, so Ryota defeated the creature, dropping a carrot as usual. It seemed that only he was able to get drops at the moment. Ryota remembered Alice saying that she felt like someone was calling her, and Emily in the beginning when she said she didn't drop anything at Nihonium. With that in mind, he realized something and ran off. He went to Nihonium, thinking that if all the dungeons had become like this, it had something to do with what Alice had felt. On the 4th floor, a girl suddenly appeared in front of him and he knew what it was. He drew his gun and said it was her fault that the dungeons weren't dropping anything anymore because she was the master of the Nihonium dungeon. Ryota fired the first shot, but the bullet passed through her body. She approached and delivered a powerful blow that sent Ryota flying. Ryota continues trying to face the creature with his special ammunition. He tests each of the variations of shots, but all the bullets pass through the dungeon master's body without causing any damage. She keeps coming at him, trying to hit him with physical attacks until she corners him. Ryota knows that, in addition to being immune to his attacks, this woman is stronger and faster than he is, but he's not going to give up easily. Suddenly, the woman stops her advance to remove a projectile that was stuck in her foot. Seeing that this was the only bullet that actually hit, Ryota understands what's happening and loads guided bullets into his pistols. He fires several shots, and when the creature tries to attack, the dungeon master ends up getting hit in the foot. Ryota's next shots are aimed upwards, so when the creature tries to punch, her hand is also hit by these bullets. What Ryota realizes is that at the moment of the attack, this woman materializes the part of her body that is attacking, making her vulnerable to physical attacks. Furthermore, when she materializes, the automatic movement of the guided bullets is activated. After using all the guided bullets, Ryota has at least weakened the opponent, which is enough to equalize the strength in combat. Quickly, Ryota overcomes the enemy, and with her now subdued, he takes the final shots to finally defeat the creature but falls exhausted afterward. Sometime later, he is awakened by Emily, who came looking for him. Seeing that her friend is injured, the blonde helps him use a healing potion to recover. Ryota thanks her for saving him once again, and she shows that the dungeon drops have returned to normal thanks to Ryota. He practically saved everyone in Sekiro, but still, Emily tells him that he shouldn't risk himself so much because he always goes overboard, and even though he can heal himself, he still feels pain when he's hurt. Anyway, Ryota says that at that moment, he wasn't exactly thinking about saving the city. Suddenly, he spots on the ground the item dropped by the dungeon master. It's a ring with an effect that will be revealed soon. As they leave Nihonium, Emily wants to spread the word in the city that Ryota was the one who saved everyone. However, he doesn't want to attract attention, and as he said before, he wasn't just thinking about saving the city when he did this. At that moment, the other girls arrive. Celeste tells him not to put himself in danger alone. He can help when he needs it. Eve, on the other hand, misses Ryota's carrots, so he decides to stop by Telulu before heading home, and all the girls go along. The next day, Ryota returns to the 1st floor of Nihonium, using the ring to test its ability. When a horde of skeletons appears, he starts shooting, and after the battle, they see that he has accumulated some blue crystals. Suddenly, Princess Margaret's group appears again. The man explains that the idea of selling the princess's rings won't work because the targets would be dragons, and the princess wouldn't be able to take down these beasts on her own. He further explains that Princess Margaret has a very high level. She is at level 94, with her maximum level being 99, but the problem is her rank. In the status board, it shows that she is rank F in everything, both in combat stats and drop levels. Seeing this, Ryota feels sorry for her because he knows how frustrating it is not to be rewarded for all your effort. As a test, he hands one of the crystals to the girl, and she instantly levels up to 95. Inside, Ryota remembers that the effect of this ring is to turn all experience points received after reaching the maximum level into crystals, and the most impressive thing is that all of her stats have now risen to rank E. Understanding what's happening, Ryota hands more crystals to the princess, making her level up to 96 and with rank E stats. This shows that the princess's evolution occurs more in the final levels, and at the rate she's going, she will surely have everything at rank A when she reaches level 99. This makes the girl and the others very happy. Grateful for everything he's done for her, the princess recalls that she had said before that she would give the first ring to Ryota, and now she says she'd like all her firsts to be with him, but don't worry, she's only talking about the first products she produces, I hope. Ryota says he can't accept so much, but that he remembers that he needs to test something else and bids farewell to everyone before leaving. With the Ryota family gathered near a pile of carrots and bean sprouts he bought around town, his goal is to get them all to the maximum level. Ryota explains the ring's effect and how it will be much more efficient than their previous method. First, he thinks that only he and Alice are at their maximum levels, but Eve reveals that she is too. The problem is that she doesn't agree to use the carrots for this because carrots are for eating. However, when Emily and Ryota mention that they can make them even tastier for the rabbit girl to eat after all the fighting, Eve agrees to let them do it while she waits. With that resolve, they wait for the items to become lost and Ryota fires several shots in succession. Since the regular bullets that drop from monsters automatically go to his magical bag, he has no problem reloading his weapons. As for the crystals, he tells Emily and Celeste to collect them, which really helps them level up. Celeste recognizes that the guy has perfected the evolution method in an impressive way. Meanwhile, the rabbit girl continues to wait for the carrots. Later, it is shown that Emily's level is now 40 out of 40 with HP at rank A, and the drop rate has also increased slightly. Celeste has also reached her maximum level, which is 54 with MP at rank A. Her drop rates are still low, but at least they are no longer all F. Despite being very nice, Emily says that it's kind of sad that Ryota was the only one to put effort into this process and didn't gain any experience points. But he's fine with it because he did gain some experience, it's just not counted in numbers. With everyone now at their maximum level, Ryota says it's time for the next phase. Sometime later, the group walks through the city as people recognize the Ryota family and their skills and accomplishments. Although the group can enter a more dangerous level of the dungeons together when at least one of the members has a license, Ryota takes them to get their own licenses to progress from level 5 of Telulu in case they ever need to enter without him. Also, if everyone has licenses, the morale of the Ryota family will be even higher. Alice is still learning and will just observe, while Eve already has a license, so only Emily and Celeste take the test and pass easily. With all of this done, Ryota tells the girls that he feels that the family is finally well structured. Ryota's idea now is for the group to spread out and explore new places, each individually in the areas where they are most skilled. He wants to get an idea of the team's performance and earnings average with this strategy. In any case, he will prepare some potions to improve the drop levels of the girls, but the condition is that no one should exert themselves too much. Everyone should give their best so they can at least reunite for dinner. Having said that, we see the members fighting individually, each using their own skills. Emily attacking the Slinrats fiercely, Ryota using his pistols, Celeste using magic, and Alice using support from the skeleton and the gelatina along with the mage, while Eve practically defeats monsters that drop carrots. 6 days later, they gather to announce the results. The rabbit girl says that her average was equivalent to 120,000 pylos, a personal record. She says equivalent because she didn't actually sell them. She ate all the carrots dropped. Emily earned 160,000 pylos. Alice and Celeste together got over 200,000, while Ryota accumulated more than 1.5 million pylos. This means that when you add it all up, the group made over 2 million pylos. With this, Ryota decides to buy magical carts for everyone, so they can be even more effective. This new model of carts has a spell that sends items directly to an exit they will set up at home, so even when the cart is full, they can continue exploring the dungeon and collecting more items. The problem Alice notices is how they will transport everything to sell later. Ryota asks Ezra for help, explaining that if they gather everything at home, they will still have to make many trips to the market, but Ezra says that just one day of his exploration is enough to keep the store running, and his record of trips in a day was 16 times. Ryota finds it impressive that she remembers something so specific, but a colleague says it's because it's Mr. Ryota. Putting that aside, Ezra first confirms that he will continue doing business with this market, and then she informs him of the solution. Ezra will now work exclusively for the Ryota family, counting directly on site and even handling logistics, so the group has nothing else to worry about. Since she will be visiting their house every day except on holidays, Ezra is practically becoming part of the Ryota family. After everything that has happened, Ryota finds it really good to have been reborn in this world. The day of Ezra's welcome party arrives, where logically her colleague appears, but so do the Neptunes, even though they were invited. Ryota isn't thrilled about the intrusion at first, but Emily says that the more people, the more fun, so he eventually gives in. Suddenly, the doorbell rings and Princess Margaret and the rest of her group arrive. Ryota invites everyone in, and then the magical cart salesman and his daughter arrive, along with the leader of the Secra Dungeon Association, who offers a large box of sugar, enough for a year. Inside, Eve complains that there aren't enough carrots. Celeste thinks that the female visitor rate is too high, while Emily is happy that there are so many people at the party. Ryota begins to reflect on the unique ability he received when he came to this world and how lucky he has been. He wonders what his past self would say if he saw him like this, but anyway, he thinks he's lucky with something else, which is the possibility of finding so many valuable friends. The anime ends on this lighter note, with Ryota saying that the food won't be enough, and he'll need to go back to the dungeon to get more. So the girls are definitely willing to accompany him once again.